I can't believe we are in the final days of filming season 6. This has been the longest stretch of filming The Chosen has ever done for a season.
So we're going to talk to the cast and crew to hear about their experience filming season 6.
Yeah, it was harder than I was anticipating, and it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, I think. But anything with such great weight and grace attached to it should be hard. It shouldn't be easy.
The Chosen team has officially begun filming the Crucifixion, and the behind-the-scenes details are more emotional, more raw, and more painful than anything we've seen before. The images and footage now surfacing from the set aren't just another sneak peek. They're a glimpse into the most sacred and devastating moment in human history, retold through the eyes of a cast and crew who clearly understand the weight of what they're recreating. This isn't just another season. This is the moment everything changes, and the way they're capturing it, it's unlike anything The Chosen has ever done. Over the past few weeks, the set has transformed into something deeply somber. You can almost feel the tension through every frame, every shadow, every heartbeat of the story unfolding. It's as if the entire team knows they're not just making television anymore. They're walking into holy ground. Filming the Crucifixion isn't simply another production day. It's a spiritual experience, one that's pushing every actor and crew member to their emotional limits. From the first leaked photo of Jonathan Roumie wearing the crown of thorns, to the cold, dark skies hanging over the crucifixion site, every new image feels heavier than the last. There's something about the way they've chosen to film this season that makes it feel painfully real, almost too real to watch. The first thing that caught my attention was the look in Jonathan's eyes. Even through the blurry, distant camera shots, you can see it. Exhaustion, sorrow, surrender. It's haunting. He's thinner than before, his expression tired, but it's not acting. You can tell he's been preparing for this emotionally for months, maybe even years. In one of his last interviews before filming, he said he was both terrified and honored to step into this part of the story. And now that we're seeing these glimpses, those words hit differently. The Chosen isn't rushing this moment. They're letting the suffering breathe. They're letting the silence between scenes speak louder than any line of dialogue could. That's what makes it so hard to watch, and yet impossible to look away. Fans on social media are already calling these the most emotional behind-the-scenes photos in the show's history. One post, showing a distant shot of Jesus carrying the cross, has already gone viral, not because it's graphic, but because it looks so heartbreakingly human. You can see the weight of the wood pressing into his shoulders, the dirt clinging to his hands, the faint streaks of blood across his back. It's a scene we all know by heart, but The Chosen's approach feels more personal, more intimate. It's as if we're not just watching what happened, we're standing there beside him, powerless to stop it. And what's truly remarkable is how little the team is revealing. Unlike previous seasons, they're keeping everything under wraps this time. No detailed interviews, no close-up behind-the-scenes clips, no early sneak peeks. Dallas Jenkins himself mentioned that this season is sacred ground, and he doesn't want to spoil the emotional impact for the audience. That decision alone says everything. When the people making the show treat it with such reverence, you know something truly powerful is coming. You can tell they want us to experience the heartbreak firsthand, not through spoilers or leaks, but through the raw emotional power of the story itself. But even with all their secrecy, a few things have slipped through the cracks. Several background actors have shared that filming conditions were intense, cold weather, long hours, and emotional exhaustion. Imagine standing on that set, surrounded by dozens of wooden crosses, hearing the wind cut through the silence. No sound of cameras clicking or casual chatter, just the heavy awareness of what scene they're about to shoot. One extra described it as the quietest day of filming I've ever experienced. It's no longer a performance at that point. It's worship through storytelling. And that's what The Chosen has always done best. They don't just show us Jesus, they make us feel what it was like to walk beside him. Another leaked moment that's been circulating shows Roman soldiers preparing the crosses while the disciples look on from a distance. There's no sound in the video, but you can almost feel the dread. You can sense Peter's fear, John's confusion, Mary's grief. It's not hard to imagine how the full episode will feel when we finally see it with sound, music, and the full emotional weight that The Chosen always delivers. I think many of us will have to pause multiple times just to breathe. This isn't just another story arc. It's the core of everything the show has been building towards since episode 1. It's also worth mentioning that The Chosen's depiction of Jesus' suffering will likely be very different from what we've seen in The Passion of the Christ or other portrayals. Dallas Jenkins has always focused more on the emotional and relational side of things. If you thought the early glimpses of the crucifixion were hard to watch, the scourging scenes are on a completely different level. Just a few days ago, new behind-the-scenes details surfaced online, and the tone of what's being filmed is absolutely gut-wrenching. This isn't the stylized, sanitized version of what we've seen in past portrayals. It's stripped down, painfully human, and full of raw emotion. Jonathan Roumie, who plays Jesus, was recently spotted wearing the purple robe and crown of thorns again, his face streaked with what looks like dried blood. But it's not the physical suffering that gets you. It's the emotional stillness behind his eyes. You can almost sense the weight of everything he's carrying. The pain, the silence, the acceptance. There's something deeply haunting about it. And fans who were lucky enough to witness these moments say it was unlike anything they've ever seen on The Chosen set before. According to people close to the production, the scourging scene was filmed over several long, cold nights. The team wanted to capture every sound. The crack of the whip, the shifting of the soldier's armor, the gasps from the crowd watching in horror. But what stands out most is the restraint. Dallas Jenkins isn't turning this into a spectacle. He's creating an experience. Every shot feels intimate, deliberate, and reverent. There's no rush, no over-the-top dramatization. Instead, it's slow, quiet, and agonizingly real. Some of the crew members reportedly couldn't even watch parts of it unfold in real time because the emotion was too strong. Imagine being there, standing on set, surrounded by flickering torches, seeing Jonathan kneel under the weight of that moment. Even knowing it's fiction, your chest tightens, your throat dries, and you can't help but whisper a prayer. What's powerful about The Chosen is that it always chooses emotion over brutality. It's not about showing us every lash. It's about letting us feel every heartbeat between them. The camera lingers not on the violence, but on the reactions. The soldier's hesitation, the disbelief in their eyes, the way the disciples can't even bring themselves to look. You can practically feel Peter's rage boiling beneath the surface, John's confusion turning to despair, and Mary's silent tears as she watches her son's body weaken with each passing moment. Those small human reactions are what make this show so heartbreakingly effective. It's not the blood that hurts you, it's the love. One of the most talked about details from the set was Jonathan's physical transformation. He's visibly thinner this season, his movements slower, his voice quieter. He looks like someone who's been carrying the world on his shoulders. And maybe that's not just acting. In interviews, he mentioned fasting and cutting back on sleep to better understand the exhaustion of Jesus during those final hours. You can see it in every glimpse that's been shared. His eyes don't just show pain, they show peace, a kind of surrender that's impossible to fake. It's that combination of human fragility and divine strength that makes his performance so powerful. You don't see an actor pretending to be Christ. You see a man who's completely given himself to telling this story as truthfully as he can. Even though we haven't seen the official footage yet, every behind-the-scenes image and every whisper from the set tells us this: the scourging scene will break hearts. Fans are already saying they'll need tissues ready for this episode. And honestly, I agree. If this is how powerful it feels in leaked moments and blurry images, imagine what it will be like with full sound design, the music swelling, and the disciples' voices trembling in disbelief. There's something special about the way The Chosen builds tension, not through shock, but through silence. The pause before the whip cracks, the look exchanged between two characters who know what's coming, the trembling hands of those powerless to stop it. That's how this show turns pain into poetry. One particularly murdering rumor from the set describes a moment when Jonathan, still in character as Jesus, reportedly stayed silent long after Dallas called cut. The crew didn't know whether to approach him. He just stood there, head bowed, eyes closed, as if he was still carrying that sorrow. When he finally spoke, it wasn't to reset the scene. It was a quiet prayer. That kind of authenticity is what makes The Chosen different from anything else on television. It's not just storytelling, it's worship through art. You can feel that the people involved genuinely believe in the message they're sharing. Every moment behind the camera feels like a sacred act. The reactions from the extras who were present say everything. Some said they couldn't hold back tears. Others said that even though they were only background characters, they felt part of something much bigger, something holy. One extra mentioned that at one point, it felt like the air itself grew heavier, as if the weight of the story they were portraying became real for everyone there. That's the kind of emotional intensity you can't fake. That's what happens when a production stops being about acting and starts being about understanding. But the most heartbreaking part isn't even the physical suffering. It's what comes next. The moments after the scourging, when Jesus stands, broken but unyielding, ready to face the cross. Fans are already speculating that these scenes will transition straight into the path toward Golgotha, where everything we've been waiting for, everything this story has built toward, will finally unfold. And as painful as it is, I think that's what makes The Chosen so deeply human. It doesn't shy away from the suffering. It lets us walk through it, step by step, reminding us that even in the darkest moments, love endures. If you followed The Chosen from the beginning, you can probably feel this too, that sense of quiet dread mixed with awe. We've known from season 1 that this story would eventually lead here. We've seen miracles, laughter, friendships, and hope. But now, all of that joy makes this heartbreak hit even harder, because these aren't just characters to us anymore. They're family, and watching them watch him suffer might just be the hardest thing The Chosen has ever asked us to do. Every moment in Season 6 seems to be leading to one inevitable point, the road to Golgotha. And now that filming for those scenes has begun, fans are realizing just how much this season will test their hearts. From the whispers coming out of the set, it's clear that these next episodes will be unlike anything The Chosen has ever done. The energy, the emotion, and the silence between takes, it's all different this time. The cast knows they're walking into the heaviest part of the story, and they're treating it with the reverence it deserves. This isn't about creating shock value. It's about taking us there, to the dirt, the dust, and the heartbreak of the final walk. One of the most talked about moments so far involves the filming of Jesus carrying the cross through the narrow streets. Fans who caught distant glimpses say the realism was overwhelming. Jonathan Roumie, weakened and bloodied from the scourging scene, was seen dragging the wooden beam across uneven ground. Even without close-ups, the exhaustion was visible. The weight of the cross, the stumbling steps, the crowd pressing in around him, every detail looks brutally authentic. You could tell the extras weren't just pretending to cry or shout. Many were actually trembling. Several background actors shared online that it was one of the most emotional experiences of their lives. One even said, "I forgot we were filming." For a moment, it felt real. The Chosen crew has always been careful with how they portray biblical events, but this time, it feels like they've gone even deeper. They've captured the chaos and confusion that must have surrounded those final hours. People yelling from the crowd, Roman soldiers shouting orders, disciples trying to hide their faces while still watching from afar. It's a swirl of noise and heartbreak, and at the center of it all, silence. Jesus doesn't speak. He just keeps walking. Each step feels heavier than the last. And that's what makes this portrayal so powerful. It's not just about what's happening around him, it's about what's happening inside him. The quiet determination, the love behind the pain. Another detail that has sent chills through the fandom is how the team is handling the reactions of the disciples during these scenes. Peter, who once swore he'd never abandon Jesus, is now watching in horror from a distance. You can imagine the turmoil inside him, guilt, fear, and disbelief all tangled together. John, the youngest and most loyal, refuses to look away. Mary is there too, holding onto her shawl, whispering prayers under her breath. These aren't just characters anymore. They're broken people, watching their world fall apart. And through them, we feel every ounce of the sorrow that fills this story. According to reports from extras and crew, Dallas Jenkins directed these scenes with almost complete silence on set. No one was allowed to use phones or talk between takes. When the camera rolled, everyone stood still. Even after cut, people didn't move right away. They just stayed there, frozen in the moment, overwhelmed by the emotion of what they had just witnessed. Some described the atmosphere as holy, others as unbearable. Either way, it's clear that The Chosen isn't treating this scene like just another climactic moment in a TV show. And now, we reach the moment no one was ready for. The Crucifixion. Even though we've known from the very beginning that this day would come, actually seeing it being filmed is something else entirely. The atmosphere around The Chosen set has changed. The smiles from behind-the-scenes videos are gone. The laughter between takes has quieted down. Everything feels heavier, slower, quieter, like the air itself understands what's happening. The cast and crew know that this isn't just another scene. This is the scene, the one everything has been building toward, the one that carries the entire weight of the story, and maybe even the entire purpose of the show. For the first time, we've heard from people who were on set during the Crucifixion shoot. Their descriptions are heartbreaking. They say it was cold and eerily silent. No one spoke between takes. Even the director's voice was soft, almost whispering. The extras who played the crowd weren't acting. Many were actually crying. Some said they had to look away, unable to handle the realism of what they were seeing. And Jonathan Roumie, who has carried this role with such grace since the very beginning, reportedly gave the performance of a lifetime. Those who saw him on the cross said it felt so real that it was almost unbearable to watch. He stayed in character even after filming stopped, his head bowed, his breathing shallow, his body still trembling from the scene. The stillness after cut was the kind that leaves everyone speechless. What's striking is how The Chosen has chosen to approach this moment. They're not trying to imitate the Passion of the Christ or recreate the same brutality. Instead, they're aiming for something more intimate, something spiritual. The Crucifixion isn't being shown as a spectacle of violence, but as a symphony of heartbreak. Every camera angle, every expression, every sound is meant to pull you into the emotion of it. Not just what happened, but why it happened. The agony, the love, the forgiveness, all wrapped into one impossible moment. This isn't pain for shock value. This is pain with purpose. And that's what makes it even harder to watch. The scene reportedly begins quietly. No music, no dramatic score, just the sound of wind, nails, and breathing. When Jonathan was raised on the cross for the first take, the entire crew stopped what they were doing. People stood still. Some prayed, others just stared. There's something about watching that image. A man lifted up, bruised and broken, his body silhouetted against the gray sky, that hits harder than anything words can describe. Even though everyone there knew it was a reenactment, it didn't feel like one. It felt real, too real, and that's what's haunting people who were there. They said it was one of the most powerful and painful experiences of their lives. From what's been shared, the production used real wooden crosses, not props, to add authenticity. The ropes, the nails, the posture, everything was meticulously designed to match the realism of ancient crucifixions. But it's not the historical accuracy that breaks you, it's the emotion, Jonathan's stillness, the trembling of his hands, the faint rise and fall of his chest. Every small detail feels loaded with meaning. One extra said, "When they lifted him up, I couldn't breathe. It felt like time stopped." And honestly, I can believe it. Because this isn't a story that you can rush. This is the heart of the gospel, and The Chosen is treating it with that exact level of reverence. Fans have also been talking about how the disciples' reactions will be shown during this moment. Peter, standing in the crowd, unable to move. John, holding Mary as she sobs uncontrollably. Matthew, staring with a look of complete devastation. Judas, of course, won't be there. His story will already have ended in tragedy, but his absence will be felt deeply in these scenes. Every glance, every tear, every desperate whisper will remind us of the human cost of betrayal. You can already imagine the emotional power this will carry once the episode airs. It's not going to be easy to watch, and that's exactly why it will matter. Another thing that has caught people's attention is how Jonathan himself has been handling the emotional burden of these scenes. In interviews before filming, he said he was preparing for this season by spending time in prayer and reflection. He knew it would test him more than anything else he's ever done. And now that filming has taken place, you can tell that preparation paid off. Witnesses say he didn't just perform the crucifixion, he lived it. When the camera stopped rolling, he didn't jump back into casual conversation or laughter. He stayed quiet. He stayed still, as if even after the director said cut, the gravity of the moment was too much to shake off.